Jinping has met Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney in the Chinese capital of Beijing. Both sides struck an upbeat tone once they met, and Carney told Xi he sees immediate and sustained progress ahead. He pointed to agriculture and agri-food, energy and finance were also highlighted as key areas of cooperation. Carney also said he is pleased the two countries are forging a new strategic partnership. President Xi welcomed the shift. He said healthy and stable Canada-China ties serve both nations and they support global peace and stability. Xi added he is encouraged by recent progress and said a meeting last November marked a clear turnaround in relations. The talks come as both sides work to rebuild trust after years of strained ties, with trade, investment and global cooperation high on the agenda. Joining us now is Ross Feingold. He's a political analyst and he joins us live from Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. Thank you very much, Ross. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Before we get into the wider implications of this, what is expected to be discussed at the meeting between Xi and Carney? What's going to make it so significant today?
The interesting thing about your question is, to make it significant is just the fact that he's there, that Carney has decided to go to Beijing. It's been so many years since a Canadian Prime Minister has visited China. China has reasons why it's angry at Canada going back several years already. So this is a relationship that's had a lot of tension in recent years. And we have to be frank here. Carney's there to make money. Right? He wants to significantly increase exports from Canada to China. So when it comes to what they're going to talk about, the ideal outcome for Carney would be commitments, real commitments, not just talk, but actually announced deals for purchases of Canadian, whether it's agriculture or other natural resources, and that's what he's there for. But again, the real significant thing is that Carney is basically saying, I want to put the tensions behind us and move forward, and that's a great outcome for China, and that'll get Carney a lot of criticism. There's already a lot of criticism in Canada, but for China it's a great outcome because it's another country, and we've seen several other leaders visiting China recently or upcoming. They're basically saying, we're not going to criticize China so much with regard to some of the things that we were criticizing China about in the past years, because if they wanted to be critical, they just wouldn't be there. So by going there, they're saying, we're going to dial back down those criticisms and we're just looking to make money.
And Ross, of course, the rhetoric that Donald Trump used to float about Canada becoming the 51st state has dialed down now. However, how do you think Washington will be looking at this visit?
Yeah, that's also really interesting because there's been so much discussion when it comes to U.S.-China relations about the positive things President Trump says about his personal relationship with Xi Jinping. And that's true. President Trump does often emphasize that we're friendly, we're friends, and I get along well with him, he likes me, I like him, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is that the United States continues to encourage its close partners, and that includes Canada at the moment, despite the tension that existed with Canada over the course of 2025. But behind the scenes, the Trump administration is certainly still encouraging or even pressuring Western countries, Japan, Australia, to reduce their reliance on China, to de-risk from China, to be suspicious of Chinese technology products, avoid Chinese technology products in their own supply chains or infrastructure. So a lot of the things that the Trump administration came to do in its first term with regard to China, that stuff is going on at the moment as well. So I do think that behind the scenes, the United States is going to be passing a message to the Canadian government. You want to sell to China, that's okay, but you still have to be very careful.
And Ross, the Canadian government sees aspects of China's behaviour as a national security threat, of course. How does a country like Canada balance the diplomatic tightrope with a country that, of course, is a national security threat in some aspects, but also an economic manufacturing powerhouse that China is?
This has certainly been a topic of discussion in Canada, just the way that it has been in European countries and, of course, in the United States or Australia. So there's been a lot of discussion in Canada about how to make their own laws robust against people working on behalf of foreign countries. And usually they are talking about China or Russia. Supply chain issues, keeping Chinese technology out of critical infrastructure, spending more on their national defense. These are all topics of public discussion in Canada. But there's going to be, as I said, a lot of criticism of Carney for going there at this time, because critics are going to say, for the reasons that you just mentioned, that China's a national security threat to Canada, and now is not the right time to be going there and making nice with the Chinese leadership. But as I said, Carney's doing the same thing that a lot of other leaders are doing, and President Trump plans to do this year as well. So he does have a strong pushback to the criticisms.
Ross, do stay with us as we move over to the United States for our next story. And Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina